Okay, Quagmire, he's asleep.
Peter, you just pooped all over the bed.
When you poop in your dreams, you poop for real.
Freddy Krueger is the ideal slasher. The slasher genre should aspire to be him. Jason and Michael Myers don't even hold a goddamn candle to him. Now, I hope this has gotten your attention, and we'll sit your ass down for the rest of the video, because I know dissing Michael Myers and Jason is, like, insane. But, assuming you have no idea what a slasher is, I will talk on said subject in horror with examples of such. If you already know of this, then you can feel perfectly free to skip ahead to part 3. Part 1 and 2 covering slashers in general. So let us talk about the slasher subgenre in horror and be on our way to the title of this video. The slasher subgenre in horror is one of the most popular genres and still is, reaching a height in the 80s. A slasher is defined by ludicrous amounts of banging, and of course, bitches getting killed. A high body count is a definitive feature of a slasher, hence the name. A killer must be memorable as well to even make a slasher good. Killer examples will be touched on in part 2, so for now we're going to glance over all this. Slashers are mostly cheap, usually as an outing for a director. The budget of the original Halloween was only $325,000. A cheaply made movie with a killer fucking up babysitters. This is where John Carpenter got his start, then going on to direct movies like They Live and The Thing and Christine. His original Halloween score he composed was a standout that left an impact. This is the definition of a slasher, having elements that make it stand out. With its body counts, the original Halloween even jump-started Oscar-winning actresses Jamie Lee Curtis's career. The original Final Girl, which a Final Girl is usually a nerdy or sex-deprived girl who ends up outlasting the killer. This Final Girl ideal can be found in Friday the 13th most commonly, infamous series within the slasher subgenre. Most characters in the Friday films have sex as if they were a nympho, while the Final Girl doesn't participate. These are the fundamentals of a slasher, even adding in sometimes unlikable characters that tend to make you suicidal. But slashers, most importantly, need a memorable killer.
I believe in you. No pain, no gain.
Slasher killers are iconic, memorable killers in horror that have stood the test of time. Something iconic being a part of a character which had them reach a high point in pop culture. As I said earlier, most of these icons come from the 80s and a small amount afterwards. A fine example of this would be Jason Voorhees, the hockey mask wearing lunatic who kills teens in the Friday franchise. You can't go anywhere or watch anything that has a hockey mask and not hearing or seeing a Jason reference. His machete and hockey mask being a staple of the character, spanning across decades of pop culture. But Jason doesn't have a singular actor who is an icon for the role. The closest you ever get is Kane Hodder, who played Jason from Part 7 through Part 10. Kane Hodder along with C.J. Graham are the iconic players of Jason. Kane Hodder being the pure body of physical strength that is Jason, slamming through walls and falling through stairs, the sheer strength and menace that is Jason. But what happens when a singular actor plays a killer for the most part? A singular actor who had played a slasher would be Brad Dourif or David Howard Thornton, iconic for the portrayal of the character. Yes, Brad Dourif has been replaced in the Chucky remake by the amazing Mark Hamill, but it left behind the soul of the character. The soul of the character is important to make a memorable slasher. Chucky is voiced by Brad Dourif. His voice is the key to the smart mouth son of a bitch that is Chucky, a real bastard. Art the Clown, played by David Howard Thornton, may not talk like Myers or Jason, but he still has personality, most importantly like Chucky. As seen in the clip above, Art is wearing flower glasses. It may be silly and take down his role as a psychotic killer, but then in the same movie we have his murder of Allie, which I really can't talk about that. You really just gotta watch it for yourself. It's one of the greatest slasher deaths, and it's all practical too. It's amazing. Slashers have also made a slight comeback in recent years. But without the key of a memorable killer, Terrifier series being an exception. An example would be X, with Mia Goth as Pearl and Maxine. Pearl isn't quite as memorable as someone like Jason or Art. She's just a horny old lady who can't handle the youth. And X may be outstanding in the slasher genre, but it misses the point of a memorable killer. Which brings us to the title of the video, Freddy Krueger.
Favorite. Eeny, meeny, miny. Rick, you little meatball. I love soul food.
Like most slashers, Freddy Krueger is memorable. The bastard son of 100 maniacs that loved to kill kids and eventually had been burned alive by the parents of said kids. Freddy is even in the big three of horror icons, that being Myers, Jason, and Freddy, of course. But as the title of the video says, Freddy is the perfect slasher. But why? What makes him the perfect slasher? Well, thank you for asking that, after sticking around so long or, skipping ahead. Before I can touch on his slasher aspect, I have to touch on what makes Freddy scary in the first few films. Freddy Krueger is mostly made scary by the realism of the character, even before the burns. A child killer who hinted at being a child predator. He killed 5-year-olds, man. This shit is fucked up. And it's scary because it's real. There are real sickos who kill kids in this sick world, slicing up innocent skin and possibly doing despicable things to them. Even after his death, and I say that with quotes, he can attack you in places where you can't run. Jason or Myers will just kill you. They will slowly walk up to you and kill you. But Freddy don't play that way. Freddy kills you in the most vulnerable time, sleep. Freddy will toy with you for however long he deems, preying on mental illness or even trauma. For example, in Dream Warriors, Freddy's iconic glove switches from razors to needles, preying on a recovering drug addict and sticking his needles into her old wounds. Even take a look at Freddy's Revenge. He toys with Jesse the entire time while Jesse's in the closet. Freddy's at his most asshole-like in this movie, toying with a closeted gay man for his own sick enjoyment.
I need you, Jesse. We got special work to do here, you and me. You've got the body. I've got the brain.
Freddy is scary. He's the man who will kill you when you're most vulnerable with his iconic weapon. The iconic finger glove is arguably more recognizable to one character than Jason's machete or Myers' knife. His weapon is more than just an average tool you could find in your kitchen or possible shed. His weapon is something purely crafted for killing, crafted by hand as seen in the opening of the original Nightmare, made for the sole purpose of pain and suffering. Which brings us to how Freddy's a perfect slasher. Jason and Myers may have heavy body counts in their respective series, and even having fucking Busta Rhymes being one of the Halloween films. Freddy may not be the highest killer, but Freddy is a representation of dumb, fun, and beautiful kills. Freddy's first ever kill is a display of his creativity, using a rotation room to pull actor Amanda Wise across the walls and ceiling. His kills are constantly entertaining, even the bad ones, dragging Johnny Depp into a bed or turning a girl into a roach. His body count is full of variety. Long of being irredeemable, Jason is somewhat redeemable even when he and Freddy fight. Freddy toying with him as if Jason isn't a huge hunk of man. After you have a franchise going on too long, it's bound to dip in quality, the more it continues. Friday films dipping heavily even after the second one, and going back to a well-off height is Jason Lives and final chapter set off. The Halloween films dip right after the third one. I'm not going to lie about that. Season of the Witch was the last good Halloween movie. I'm not going to pretend that the Freddy films don't dip at all. They do as Freddy goes through flanderization more. But this works in its own way. Freddy's always been a sick son of a bitch, so the fact he becomes more of an asshole as the film evolves works in his favor. He has personality, which is key to being memorable. Most slashers' personalities are able to be must kill. Freddy's pure personality, killing and toying with his victims because he loves them. This isn't a change from who he was beforehand. He was always this way. Which brings in Robert Englund. Robert Englund is the man.
The sculpting is a lot finer than it used to be. I mean, you can see it hasn't been painted yet, and it hasn't been there's like an oil, like a teak wash that goes over it, which brings up all of the detailed sculpting, and you can't really see it now, but there's like sculpting around my eyes that's as fine as like hairline, you know, which, you know, the guys that did the original was intentionally done a little rougher and thicker, but Kevin Yeager refined them almost prophylactic thin, but as the camera got farther away from me, that this stuff didn't show up as much. But with Bill's sculpting on this one, there's shots where the camera literally goes into my eye on this, and you see all the detail, but also I can be, you know, a block away from the camera and lit now, and the relief also still shows up in terms of a sort of signature disfigurement, because he's got the bold and the refined all in one concept on this.
Now, Kevin
Who plays Freddy in 07 films and has the most Freddy media. He is Freddy Krueger. His portrayal is what makes Freddy fun. The little movements that add character, the classic Freddy lean he does, was created due to the heaviness of the glove. You see Freddy, you see Robert Englund, which isn't quite the same with Jason or Myers.
Well, I don't think that's the truth.
But this makeup is really...
I don't think that's the truth, because I really believe that Kane and the guys that have played Jason have really brought something to that part, in the stillness and everything. But there's a body language there too, but I did a body language that I just don't think anybody else could replicate.
They are a mask worn by stuntmen. Freddy's a character made by Englund. When they attempted to remake A Nightmare on Elm Street, it had lost all of its charm. Don't get me wrong. Jackie Earle Haley is good in his role of Freddy, but doesn't quite fit the role. Doesn't quite fill the long shoes that Englund left. Englund is the true Freddy. He is a slasher. He's retired from the role now, which is, you know, the guy's old, but you can't have Freddy without the man who made him Freddy, who made him the perfect slasher and maybe even perfect horror villain. I want to thank you for watching this, and as you can tell by the footage above, I'm quite biased towards Freddy Krueger. Please don't forget that this is all my opinion, and hopefully you watch more of my channel. Thank you.